right, John Child here and Bob McGrath, and this is the second episode of the John Child Extemporaneous, a bald-faced Joe Rogan ripoff. Thank you, Bob, for ripping off Joe Rogan's logo. And I think the first the last show we did was all about earth-shattering events like the monetary policy, fiscal policy. There was one segment about petitions and making sure the election machines are actually certified and verified. But guess what? The only thing anybody wanted to know about were the darn hummingbirds. So I thought, well...
The important stuff.
The important stuff, exactly right. Anyway, so tell you what, my wife sent me a video of this lady who found a hummingbird on the subway. No, it was not. Apparently a hummingbird's injured and now she's going to help it be restored. So let's watch.
Okay. Let's get you some. Okay.
This is one of those entitled hummingbirds. He feels like he's really
this one
deserves personal attention. Now remember, they only weigh as much as a penny.
Get his energy up, he'll start flying, I guess.
No, Bob, this only goes on for 10 minutes. I mean, it'll be over soon.
Yeah.
Now, one of my landlord clients told me about when he lived in Argentina that hummingbirds sat right in front of his face and he reached out and grabbed it. And then he let it go. It's like the hummingbird was inviting him to, here, pick me up. Now, their tongues are about twice as long as their heads. So he's drinking the nectar now. And off he went. Are they so cool or what?
It's pretty cool.
Well, let's see, I don't have much more to say about hummingbirds. Except they're not around. Last 2 days they have not come around. So they showed up once in the spring and then they were disappeared until just a few weeks ago, and then there's a whole bunch of them. And now the weather changed a little cooler and bye-bye.
Camera shy.
Camera shy birds, yeah. I wanted to relate a story of my youth, where I think it was the third year I was taking Algebra 1. Oops. And there was a lady there named Mrs. Goss. She was the teacher, and she came in one morning and she said to us all, she said, "The tests you took yesterday were just awful."
What kind of people are these?
That was the story?
And they chucked it out. What kind of people are these? It was great.
Oh.
It was perfect. Welcome to the Centralized Counting Center in Delaware County. Oh, wait, no, the Centralized Cheat Center, that's what we call it, at the wharf down in Chester City, Pennsylvania, on the Delaware River. Pretty spot. They have a beautiful cafe there, so if you want to stop in, good breakfast sandwich. Now, in 2020, the Delaware County Election Office mailed out, you have to do the math on this, get a pencil, they mailed out 104,000 mail-in ballots. Now, by the time the counting was over, they had tabulated 127,000 mail-in ballots. They mailed out 104, they counted 127. This is known as Delaware County election arithmetic. You send out 104, you count 127. This makes sense. This is why we call it the Delaware County way.
What kind of people are these?
So on election night, it was absolute chaos at the Centralized Cheat Center, Counting Center, at the wharf in Chester City. One of my neighbors down the two blocks away, who was there in an official capacity, told me, he said, "John, it was chaos. I kept calling the county about my reports about how this ain't right." And nothing came back from Delaware County.
What kind of people are these?
Now, Gregory Stenstrom was one of the certified observers at the scene on election night at the wharf, and he saw all kinds of activity. Gaylords, these are these big bins with wheels, rolling up with mail-in ballots. And they kept rolling these things into a back room where there were no observers, and Greg asked repeatedly, hey, let me see what's going on back here in the back room. And he was denied, no access.
What kind of people are these?
So he got a court order from the Philadelphia U.S. Attorney, McSwain, to find out what in the world is going on in the back room of the counting center. It took several hours, but they finally got it together, and guess what they found? 70,000 mail-in ballots, all unopened, uncounted, sitting in plain sight, stacked up in the bin. Now, they estimated with 70,000 based on how the Gaylords are stacked.
What kind of people are these?
Now, Greg called the U.S. Attorney, McSwain, and said, it's a show down here in Delaware County. We have evidence of massive election fraud here. All I need to do is go down and get my guys. We can pull the records out of these machines, and in a couple hours, we'll know exactly what's been going on. U.S. Attorney said, oh, sounds good. He's got all the evidence. And he sent it all up to Attorney General Bill Barr. Remember him? He was an honest fellow. So Bill Barr told McSwain, stand down. We'll let Pennsylvania Attorney Josh Shapiro handle this.
What kind of people are these?
So here it's been nearly 5 years of lawsuits and lawsuits and lawsuits and nothing. We can't get a judge, no jury. And the way it works is as long as there is no judge assigned, then guess what? There's no crime. Pretty good. P.S. The 70,000 mail-in ballots that unopened, uncounted, they've all since gone missing. Never to be seen again. So what can we conclude? Those 70,000 mail-in ballots after they mailed out 104,000, those were the real ballots. Those are the ones that people took the time to fill out and mail in. Those are all gone. So what that means is the 127,000 that they counted, 90% for you-know-who, Mr. Biden, 127,000 pure counterfeits.
What kind of people are these?
Here's another WTF moment in Delaware County history. All the voting machines used in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania are, guess what? Uncertified, unverified. Not one of them has properly been verified or certified. The hash testing makes no sense because the hash codes the county provides are not hash codes. The scanners, the iPad poll books are totally vulnerable to hacking, not from the internet, but from the cell phone towers. It took 2 years in Georgia to finally release the Halderman report, all of which verifies all of this. Here's Halderman in court demonstrating with a number 2 pencil right in front of the judge how he could rig a vote with these systems in a matter of minutes with a number 2 pencil. So why did it take 2 years to release the Halderman report? Hello? Because none of the election people want to admit to an election system that is not safe and secure. They buried it for years and they still won't talk about it. Here's a Delaware County WTF moment number 3. Before COVID, the elections in Delaware County cost $700,000. Today, it costs upwards of $8 million.
What kind of people are these?
Here's number 3. Now, there's 3 people that sit on the Board of Elections in Delaware County. One's a Republican, one's a Democrat, and then there's the director or the head of the board, and it's Ashley Lunkenheimer. She's an attorney. She's the chairman. Now, the Democrat on the election board is named Scott Alberts. He's a proud and enthusiastic member of the Democratic Socialists of America. He's a Bernie bro. He's one of the people that New York's new Democrat mayoral candidate, Ma'am Dammy, he's also a Democratic Socialist of America. But here's the rub. There's 250,000 registered Democrats in Delaware County. And the Democrats couldn't find one Democrat to sit on the Board of Elections who would pledge himself to the Republic? The answer is no. And the worst of it is the Republican Party of Delaware County had no problem with any of it. Meek, like mice. Not a word of objection. So what's worse, socialists on the Board of Elections or an opposition party that doesn't have a problem with it? They don't call it the Uniparty for nothing. Hey, John Child here. Wanted to tell you about my all-time favorite president, Calvin Coolidge. He was a magnificent guy. Now, funny thing about Calvin Coolidge, his nickname was Silent Cal. But guess what? When he was around friends of his and people who knew him, he was life of the party. He'd tell stories and jokes and, oh, did you hear the one about whatever? As soon as somebody showed up who was not in his circle, he clammed up because he knew that, straight ears, they could hear all kinds of things. So he was known as Silent Cal around reporters because he wouldn't talk to them. Now, funny thing about Calvin Coolidge is he was the Republican that Democrats loved to vote for. He ran for his favorite pastime was running for office. They asked him, Calvin, what do you do for fun? What are your hobbies? He said, I run for office. That was his thing. So he ran for post office man in his little town. He ran for Congress. He was state senator. He was all kinds of different. But everybody loved Calvin Coolidge. But he was not a flashy guy. Now, he was famous for his taciturn, very New England kind of a dour look, and he loved to dress up in funny hats. Now, here's a famous one. Him in a headdress, right, with a blank expression. I love this one. But any kind of funny hat he would get, he was always put it on to make everybody crack up. Now, he's got a wonderful library up in Massachusetts. It's now if you look up President Obama's library, you can see the difference. I mean, it's a difference between 100 and some years later. But inside the library is all of his. There's his roll top desk and different artifacts. I've never been, but I hear it's fascinating. If you want to read a funny, interesting book about Calvin Coolidge, it's called The Forgotten Man. It's all about how Calvin Coolidge handled the Depression right after World War I, where his rule was, well, no, we're not going to do anything. Everybody was screaming, do something. And he said, no, don't do anything. And it was miserable for about a year. And then things sprang back to life and ushered in the roaring 20s. So, gosh, that's Calvin Coolidge. Oh, I know. There was a fellow named economist went to visit President Trump. And he's looking around said, well, where's Calvin Coolidge? And Trump said, what are you talking about, Cal? He said, Ronald Reagan had Calvin Coolidge right here. Where is he? He said, oh, he must be down in the warehouse. He said, look, he was the best president who ever lived. I mean, you're okay, but Calvin, he was fabulous. Because every week he would meet with his cabinet and he'd say, well, how did we cut government spending this week? Not the growth of the spending. I mean, actual cutting. He said, no, this is the people's money. It belongs in their pocket, not our pocket. Give it back. So that was his famous thing. So the guy told Trump, he said, listen, next time I visit you, I better see that portrait of Calvin Coolidge on the wall, or I'll be very upset. And Trump said, right away. And that's all I have to say about that.